we had the New York premiere just over a week ago, and I got to meet Christopher Reeve's children, who are all
Mm.
lovely people and very inspiring people. But one of the questions that I wanted to ask them when I met them, because it was really important to me, was, did I capture something of the real emotion that you guys felt? And that's a very hard thing to do, because when you write fiction, music for fiction, you can really push the boundaries. You can take the audience on a wild journey, and the audience is up for that. But with documentary, you've got to be so perfectly honest with the emotion that you're portraying through music. If you push it too far, then you're going to undermine what's on the screen. Um, so anyway, they all seem to think that I had captured something truly of what they felt, and that was the biggest compliment really that I could have had.
Well, that's so wonderful to hear. And, nothing to take away from the directors and everybody else, all the technicians. I'm a director myself. I've done feature documentaries, and I know as important as directing is because you have to get your protagonist or protagonists, connected to you. Otherwise, in a documentary, it's not going to flow. It's not going to work. You have to have that understanding. But aside from that, one of the most amazing thing about documentaries is uh, yes, they're real stories, but you also have to engage an audience so that you don't lose the audience, right? Because it's not an action-packed, Bruce Willis Die Hard or Superman, Christopher Reeve type movie. And music does that. But like you said, over the music, it shouldn't overpower the emotions and the story. And there were, that's what your music does. And yes, there were some moments where there were suspense was being built up, and you have to do that, and it was rightfully so because there were moments in the film where you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't know anything about his story other than the fact that he used to be Superman and he fell off the horse. And I remember watching his Oscar speech in '96. I still remember that, and that's all I knew. Um, but again, captivating that in such a way where you're just completely engrossed into characters. Music plays a huge part in it. And I was, again, I sound like a broken record, but I absolutely enjoyed the film, partially because of the music, aside from the story itself.
Well, thank you. I think it's also unusual for a documentary to have a score that is quite on the scale that this is, and somehow the story seemed to be able to take what is it's not really like your average documentary movie score. It's much more akin to a Hollywood movie score than a documentary movie score, and somehow the story could could take that, and it just worked really well and captured the emotional narrative really well. And I was surprised as I was writing it. I kept wondering if I was pushing it too far, but it seemed to be just right.
Yeah, and it must be really a challenge, right? Because you're scoring for a character, an individual who played a character as big as Superman, the very first superhero movie ever made 50 years ago, almost 50 years ago. Plus, then you have music composed by none other than John Williams. And the way the documentary starts, which I'll just kind of give it away, is just those, the music building up the Superman theme, and you see these visuals popping in and out. How was it intimidating to know that you're working on a project like this that has it's a superhero, it's Christopher Reeve story, it's John Williams, it's Richard Donner, like all these big names. Was that intimidating to you in any way that, composing a music for a
Absolutely.
documentary?
It was intimidating, of course. I mean, John Williams, like most people in my line of work, John Williams is, The Godfather, and we are all, if only our careers could be, 5 or 10% of what his is, and our artistry and our skill. Um, so, to know that I'm writing music that was going to sit side by side with one of the greatest movie theme tunes of all time. I used to run through the playground singing that theme in my head, believing I could fly, right? Yes, it was incredibly intimidating. And to really illustrate that point, you talk about that opening section of the film, but actually the first piece of music in the film happens before the Superman thing, and it's an introduction that's written
Right.
by me
Yes.
into John Williams's theme, and then you come out of John Williams's theme and straight back into my music. So yeah, that was very nerve-wracking and really challenging. And but the fact that you weren't even completely aware of that as you were remembering it means that I did an okay job. So I'm pleased about that.
Yeah, I think you did, because I honestly don't remember noticing that. And that's what happens when you do good music. It's like you're not noticing things. They're just kind of there, right?